are not crazy. Well, let's start by saying that this is a lie. Maybe not completely, but at least partially. And for that, I will talk about myself in the beginning. Sometimes I question if I'm crazy. More like, I always question if I'm crazy. The reasons differed over time. I used to question if I'm crazy because I fear mannequins. Then I started question if I'm crazy because I'm scared of aliens abducting me, putting me in a small room where I suffocate with no one noticing. Or because I just had a panic attack the night before and couldn't sleep at all. Well, the reasons now are different. I sometimes now question if I'm crazy because I challenged a set value within me, or because I put myself out of my comfort zone and did something uncomfortable, or for all the other reasons that I question if I'm crazy for. And I want to stand here today and tell you that we all can be crazy sometimes. I'm Hadi, and this is my TED Talk. Before I start, I want to initiate all of this with a disclaimer. I know that the topic that I've chosen today might be touching and uncomfortable for some. And for that, I want to say that that's completely valid. It's understandable and it's normal to go through that. And for this, I have two things to say. I am more than open for discussing this afterwards if you felt like you need to discuss and release that stress. And second, I will be cautious as much as possible with the use of language to accommodate everyone. And now, I think it's time to tell you a story. 6 or 7 months ago, when I first came to this campus, to UWC East Africa, Arusha campus, I thought that settling down with the environment, getting to know all the people and accommodating all the cultures would be the biggest challenge ever. And I thought that if I did all of that, I would just settle down like nothing happened. But little did I know that the biggest challenge was just waiting for me. Back home, if you don't know, we don't have airways. Planes don't fly over my country. And for that, whenever I hear that sound of planes in the background of my mind, probably the second sound I will hear afterwards is an explosion. And for that, and for the irony of destiny, I just settled right next to an airport for 2 years. And for that, I will be talking to you today about how did that happen. At first, when I was coming here, I saw the airport. I drove by it, and I noticed that it was there. I noticed the existence of that airport. I probably even heard the first couple of airplanes when I was coming, but I didn't notice. Would you call it for the stress of socializing, reading to know people? I don't know. But what I certainly know is that it happened the second day. I was sitting, talking to people, socializing, and then I heard it. People went silent. I went silent, and their voices were nothing but background noises. Back home, lots of things are considered to be shame. Vulnerabilities, especially mental health related ones, are considered on an unforgivable sin level of shame. If you experience one, and once they acknowledge the fact that you don't follow what they consider normal or acceptable, practices of all kinds, shapes, and forms will be practiced on you to get you back to your normal state. But what it actually requires to help you and guide you through it, what it actually requires to get you on that track of understanding what is happening to you and to help you to go through it. The silence was dominant, and the only thing that I could hear was to-do, to-do, to-do. I probably did not understand what that is at the time, probably because I was too busy in my panic attack. But now that I look back at it, it was probably my panic attack that happened because I was triggered by my PTSD. That all happened at the time when I couldn't understand it. But I was dealing with my panic attacks for a couple of months before coming here. I was dealing with it with my online therapist, someone that I hid from everyone who knew about her and my existence, except one friend who I felt was worthy enough to tell. It originally all started by my underlying stress. It is all because of these small exams, assignments, and things that I do back home, socializing, getting out of my bed, talking to people, and all of these things that we think are normal things. But then it built up. And the biggest thing came, the post-traumatic stress disorder. After a decade of horror, I think that was pretty enough to form it. But after dealing with it for a couple of months, I was so proud of thinking that I've done with it. It's completely gone. And panic attacks, what even is that? It will never happen again. But that probably was not the true at the time. It takes a whole lot of confidence to accept our vulnerabilities. It takes even more confidence to understand them and take actual steps towards dealing with them. And that is because the stigma around them is not limited to back home. It is universal. We, as humans, trap ourselves with the boundaries of vulnerabilities. In our bodies of a couple layers of flesh and some bones, dare I say the only true homes that we hold with us until the end of our lives. We trap ourselves with the things that are nothing but our part of us, and we trap ourselves with things that we can do with them by just understanding them and giving ourselves that space of understanding what is happening to us. At first, I felt weak. I felt so little, I couldn't even admit that I went through relapsing, as it was, from my own experience, the worst part of it. By definition, it's just going back to a previous state after improving. To me, at the time, it was a complete sign of uselessness. I saw myself as someone who couldn't help themselves, someone who couldn't even improve or go forward, but going back, and someone who was not worthy of accepting myself. But it was too big. It was so much of a burden that I needed someone to talk to, and I went to that friend. It is always way easier for us to talk to our friends, to find someone with an informal relationship, someone who we can just go to and talk about things. It's always easier for us than taking these big leaps of booking a session or talking with a professional or someone with these formal relations. And that's what happened. I went to my friend and I discussed the things with them. If we want to take this on a very private, small scale, on our UWC East Africa Arusha campus, I would say that you can find this thing with peer mentors. We have people who are specifically trained for these things to listen to you and to understand what you're going through. Take it on a broader scale, you have to find a person. Find your person who you can talk to. You don't have to be standing in front of a bunch of people talking about your vulnerabilities as a first step. You can find a person who you can talk to, and from there, you can navigate it and go through these steps, these big leaps of booking sessions with professionals. My friend reminded me that nothing would have happened, I wouldn't have dealt with it in the first place if I did not accept myself, if I did not give myself the chance to understand that I was going through and to deal with it. And that's what actually happened. With their encouragement, I found my way to book these sessions again with my therapist. I found my way to deal with the things that I was going through again. And after going off all that process, I found some new things and I have new perspectives on things that I want to share with you. Although you might call that with today's language koilu or cringe, I'm actually sharing with you because I actually found these things. First of all, I found that relapsing is no more than a threshold. A threshold is just the last step that you take while you're going out of a door. You might stumble on it, you might fall as well, you might get uncomfortable from that fall. But what will certainly happen is you will stand up. You will stand up on the other side where you intended to be. You will stand up where you want yourself to be. And relapsing is the same thing. You might stumble on relapsing, but you will stand up. More powerful, wiser, and more knowledgeable. I found out that vulnerabilities are nothing but like any other part of myself. I'm Hadi with my brown eyes, brown hair, the way I talk and walk, and probably the way I interact with people, but most certainly with the vulnerabilities that make me who I am. And for that, it's nothing to be ashamed of, but something to accept.
And once you reach that point where you can embrace and share your vulnerabilities, do that. Share them with other people where you can encourage these people to accept and understand theirs and share them and embrace them as well. And from there, we can walk on a little by little towards dealing with the stigma that involves around vulnerabilities, especially mental health related ones that affect almost every single component of every single society. And then you can stand on a stage talking to people about the sound of airplanes triggering you, or living right next to an airport for 2 years, or maybe even stand right in front of them and tell them that you're crazy because you challenge yourself and that we all can be crazy sometimes. Thank you.